Okay, a whole new type of question. This is sequences now. So in sequences, what usually happens is you have a list of shapes, and you're asked to find a middle one in that list, or the last one in that list, or the next one in that list. And so in this case, the one that we have on the screen here, for every step in the sequence, we add one more side to the shape. So we're missing the one with the question mark. We figured out that we need a shape with 3 sides. So this is going to be the correct answer because it's the only answer that has 3 sides. What happens a lot with sequences is that there's going to be irrelevant features. So in this case, for example, the color of the shapes is irrelevant. That triangle to replace the question mark could have been yellow, it could have been blue, even though that would have been next to other shapes with that same color. That's fine. It could have been black, it could have been turquoise, it could have been anything you can think of, because in this case, the color was irrelevant. The only thing that mattered was the number of sides on each shape. Now here is our wonderful mnemonic again, just in case you thought that you would have time to forget it. You don't have time to forget it. I'm going to bring it up all the time. So remember, never say stop to a cute panda stands for number, size, shape, total, angle, color, pattern. These are all the things we need to look out for when we are trying to figure out what can link 2 images, or maybe what differentiates 2 images. Okay, here is a question for you guys. So I'm going to add some answer option letters just so we're clear on what's going on. So this would be answer A, this would be answer B, this would be answer C, D, and E. Usually there's going to be some really easy ones to eliminate, and then it's going to be a little bit harder to figure out which one is exactly right. But as a quick way to get through the question a little bit faster while we wait for the last 2 people to answer in the poll, obviously we can eliminate answer A, because we can see that in this pattern here, we start with 5 circles, and then we've got 4, and then 3, and then we end up with 1. So what do we need here? We need 2 circles. So we can definitely eliminate answer A. Another thing we can eliminate easily is answer B, because the circles are in the wrong orientation. We can tell that the circles are always sort of in a diagonal that is always this one is all by himself, so we have to kind of imagine the diagonal. But we know that this one would be out of place because it's in the wrong direction. So there seems to be a little bit of a debate between answer D and answer C, although answer D got way more votes. So we can, as I said, cross out answer A and B. Pretty much nobody voted for answer E, and that's because this pattern on this circle is wrong, right? That didn't come up at all in the patterns in the sequence, so we can get rid of that one. And we're left with either C or D. So there's 2 things that could help us figure out what's going on here. One thing is that if you look really carefully, the pattern on this actually doesn't match the pattern on these circles. It's not exactly the same color ratio, but that maybe was hard to see on your screens if the definition isn't great. But the other thing we can see is that on all of these patterns, the bottom circle is always a dark green, a dark color, whereas here we've got a light color as the bottom circle. So what we needed was a pattern where the bottom circle was the darker color. And that's why answer D is the correct answer. Really good job to anyone who voted for answer D. There it is. Wrong direction, wrong colors. There's the answer, and wrong pattern. That's what we had said. So moving on. Here is a little bit more detail on that MOPS mnemonic in case it comes up. So M stands for movement. This means, do parts of the shape move with each image? Is that one of the things that maybe links the shapes, or is that one of the things that, on the contrary, separates the shapes? And then what do we have? O is orientation. Which way is the shape pointing? So if you have an arrow, is it pointing this way? 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 That's a really important thing. Even though the shape stays the same, the orientation can change. P stands for placement. Are the shapes next to each other? Are they in front of one another? Is one blocking the view of another one, like my hand is blocking my face right now, or it's next to my face, but it's behind my face? And then symmetry is the last one, the end of MOPS stands for symmetry. So have any of the shapes been reflected? That's one of the ways that sometimes you can eliminate an answer option that seems right, but actually what's happened is that it's almost exactly right, but one of the shapes has been reflected. One of the shapes is a symmetry of what it should be. So it looks almost exactly right to our eyes and our brain, but actually it's a bit of a trick. Okay, here is our next sequences question. While you answer, let's eliminate some of the easy ones to eliminate. So one of the fastest things that you might be able to notice is that there seems to be a sort of a rotation orientation thing happening with the arrow here. So it's rotating by 45 degrees every time. So we know that the arrow in our question mark symbol is going to have to point to the left. So we can get rid of this arrow that's pointing to the right, and this arrow that's pointing to the right, and this arrow that's pointing too far down. Another thing you might notice is the circle. The circle is also, ooh, that you can't see that. Get a better color, purple. The circle is traveling around the edges of the outer circle, kind of like how it would travel around a clock, right? So if it started at the top and then it went right and then down and then left, it means it needs to be at the top again in our answer option. But that doesn't help us figure out which one between A and D is right because it's correctly at the top in both of them. But if you had started with the circle, you could have eliminated C and E there. Okay, I'm going to give you a few more seconds to answer for yourselves, and then we're going to figure out which one between A and D is correct. A and D were the most popular answers, but there is one that is correct, and how can we figure it out? If you look really carefully, in all of these shapes at the top of the screen, we have these diagonals that all go in the same direction, whereas in answer D, they're going in the wrong direction, and answer A, they're going in the right direction. So answer A is the right answer. Really good job to everyone who voted for answer A. It was hard to choose between answer A and answer D. The only thing that was different was the pattern in the background, the sort of waves that were in the wrong direction. Okay, another question for you guys. We're going to do a couple more questions after this one, and then we'll be done. So remember, never say stop to a cute panda. Remember to look at number, shape, size, total, angle, color, and pattern. So there does seem to be a consensus for answer E, and that's exactly right. So there were two things you could notice in this situation. One, when you're going from left to right, the shapes always get one bigger. So here, the smallest shape is a square, and then the second one, it's the second smallest shape. And here, the second smallest shape was a circle. And in this one, it's the biggest shape. And so that's true every time you go to the right. The shape gets one size bigger every time. So if we wanted to go from here to here, we would want a shape that has a square as the second biggest shape and a circle as the biggest shape. So we definitely want a circle as the biggest shape, so we can get rid of these three. And then the other thing to look at was sort of the pattern slash color, noticing that the middle-sized shape, the second smallest shape, is always white. So here we have a white circle, here we have a white triangle, here we have a white square, etc. And here there's no white anything in answer C. So that's not right. And the correct answer is answer E.